This morning, we are only 5 days away from Election Day, and if election season has you stressed out, you are not alone. In fact, a poll by the American Psychiatric Association found that 73% of Americans report feeling anxious and or depressed about the 2024 election.
So here to help us out and talk about how to handle this type of anxiety is Dr. Carl Clark from WellPower. Dr. Clark, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us. Of course, this is a big topic for a lot of people. Are people more anxious about this election than what we've seen in the past?
I believe they are, and there are a lot of things that define stress. One is we have a physical reaction to it. The second is we would avoid it if we could. And the third is we don't feel like we have any control. And I think this election in particular, people feel like have no idea what's going to happen and it feels out of control.
What's your advice to people who might be feeling this anxiety?
Well, one thing is the dosage, right? We have a 24/7 news cycle, but don't watch the news 24/7. Like, you want to be informed, but pick out, a good source of information and dose yourself slightly, just like stay up, but don't stay on it 24/7.
Maybe you get your headlines with your morning coffee.
Yeah, and the other thing is to make sure that you're taking time to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about the election all the time, you're not doing those things that actually nurture us. Physical activity, being with friends, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think another part of this, sometimes it helps if you show acts of kindness and you pay it forward, and that sometimes can get rid of some of this anxiety as well.
Yeah, it's very important, when we're sort of caught up in ourselves, that if you actually think and do things for other people, it contributes to our own well-being.
Yeah.
So this is all leading up to the election. What about after the election? What about, post-election disappointment, even possibly violence or unrest?
Yeah, I do think people are stressed about that too. There's concern about what's going to happen after the election and being prepared. It's another way to have some sense of control. It's like, okay, if some civil unrest were to happen, what do I want for myself and my family? What are the things that we'll do? How can we be prepared? And that'll give you some sense of control.
I'm getting anxiety just thinking about the holidays coming up because there is so much division just within families and friends as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
How do you recommend handling that division as well right now with the holidays coming up?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. When people have disagreements, there are really only three basic things that people disagree about. They disagree about the facts, and there's a lot of misinformation in this campaign, right? So they disagree about the facts. They disagree about what should be, and they disagree about how something should happen. So if you have a family member that has a view that's very different from you, you can be very curious about those things. What you want to avoid, though, is being quarrelsome, and we see a lot of that happening, where people are name-calling, or you believe that because you're an idiot, those kinds of things. Those are not helpful, but you can maintain those relationships if you just like, hey, do we see the facts differently? Do we see what should be differently? Do we see, how things should be done differently? And you can be deeply curious, and you don't have to agree, but you can understand one another.
And let's say you're practicing that, but it's not being reciprocated. What should you do in that situation?
Boundaries.
Yeah, there we go. Good word.
Yeah, you just want to say, you know what, this is getting too heated. Let's take a break. Let's not talk about
good advice.
That's great advice.
Dr. Clark, thank you very much. We appreciate you.